Picture this: two friends start their careers on the exact same day, earning identical salaries, living in the same city. Fast forward 10 years. One is still living paycheck to paycheck, stressed about every unexpected expense. The other just bought their second rental property and is planning early retirement. What happened? They hit completely different wealth explosion points, and only one of them knew these points even existed. Today, I'm revealing the 3 hidden moments where net worth doesn't just grow, it absolutely detonates. Miss these windows and you'll spend decades spinning your wheels. Recognize them and you can build wealth that seems almost impossible to your current self. But first, let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many times have you started a savings plan, watched your account balance crawl upward for months, then thought to yourself, this is pointless, I'll never get anywhere at this rate? If that sounds familiar, you've actually been standing at the doorstep of the first explosion point without even knowing it. Here's what nobody tells you about wealth building. The beginning feels absolutely terrible. You scrape together a few $100s here, maybe $1,000 there. You invest it, watch it grow by pennies, and wonder if you're wasting your time. That frustration you feel, that's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's actually proof you're doing it right. The first explosion point is what I call the compounding ignition stage. This is when your money finally has enough mass to create visible momentum. Think about heating a pot of water. For the longest time, absolutely nothing appears to be happening. The water looks exactly the same, then suddenly at precisely 100 degrees Celsius, everything changes. Bubbles everywhere, steam rising. The transformation is instant and dramatic. Your wealth works exactly the same way. At $1,000 invested, earning 10% annually, you make $100. Not exactly life-changing, but here's where the magic starts revealing itself. At $10,000 invested, that same 10% return gives you $1,000. At $100,000, you're suddenly making $10,000 per year without lifting a finger. Same percentage, completely different reality. Warren Buffett demonstrates this perfectly. Most people don't realize he accumulated over 99% of his wealth after turning 50. Why? Because compounding finally had a massive enough foundation to build on. His billions weren't created during his young, energetic decades. They exploded once his financial snowball reached critical mass. But here's the tragedy. Most people quit right before this threshold. They save diligently for months or years, see modest growth, and convince themselves it's not worth the effort. They abandon ship just before compounding shows its true power. If you give up here, you'll never even glimpse the other 2 wealth triggers. The exact dollar amount where this kicks in varies for everyone. Some feel it at $10,000 invested, others at $50,000 or $100,000. The specific number isn't what matters. What matters is surviving the boring, invisible growth phase long enough to see the results. Because once you witness compounding in action, it becomes addictive. You start thinking, if this works at 10,000, imagine what happens at 100,000. That's why wealthy people keep getting wealthier. They're not necessarily smarter or more disciplined. They simply gave compounding enough time and capital to cross that invisible threshold most people quit before reaching. But even reaching the first explosion point is just the beginning. The second point is where everything fundamentally changes, because this is when your money starts working harder than you do. The second explosion point is the labor replacement stage. This is when passive income from your assets begins covering your monthly expenses. Most people spend their entire careers trapped in the salary cycle. Work 40 hours, get paid, spend it all, repeat forever. The only way to improve is working more hours or chasing promotions. But salaries alone rarely create true freedom. The wealthy understand something different. Your money needs to start paying for your life before you can ever get ahead. When rental income, dividends, business profits, or other passive streams cover your rent, groceries, and bills, something magical happens. Your entire salary becomes surplus. Imagine someone with $50,000 invested in dividend-paying stocks generating $4,000 annually. That might not sound impressive until you realize it covers their rent. Suddenly, their entire paycheck can flow directly into more investments. Each year, the gap between income and expenses widens faster and faster. It's like switching from pedaling a bicycle uphill to coasting downhill with momentum. Your effort hasn't changed, but the environment has completely transformed. Once you feel that shift, you'll never want to return to trading time for money. You don't need millions to experience this trigger. Even a small rental property covering one monthly bill creates momentum. A modest investment portfolio paying for groceries creates freedom. Every expense your assets cover is another hour of your life bought back. The moment your assets begin replacing your labor, even partially, you've entered a world where wealth no longer depends on your boss, your hours, or your energy. It depends only on how effectively you grow your asset base. But even this isn't the final stage. The third explosion point is where millionaires become multi-millionaires, where wealth doesn't just grow steadily, it rockets off the charts. The third explosion point is the leverage acceleration stage. This is where you discover that wealth doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially. You're no longer limited by your personal time and effort. You're using three powerful forms of leverage. First, capital leverage. Using money to control larger assets like real estate or scaled business investments. Second, systems and teams. Building operations where other people's time multiplies your output. Third, network leverage. Gaining access to opportunities, insider knowledge, or deals unavailable to average investors. This is where growth compounds on itself. Not just money making money, but systems creating systems, connections generating opportunities, profits funding bigger profits. Jeff Bezos exemplifies this perfectly. Amazon reinvested every dollar of profit back into scaling until it dominated entire industries. On a personal level, imagine someone with one rental property. They reinvest profits into acquiring 10 more properties. What started as a side hustle becomes a multi-million-dollar portfolio within a decade. It's like rocket launch physics. Initially, massive fuel is burned just to get off the ground. But once velocity builds, gravity loses its grip and acceleration feels effortless. And at this stage, you're no longer working within existing systems. You're designing the systems themselves. That's why wealth accelerates dramatically. It's no longer limited by your hours, energy, or even your lifetime. Now, here's the crucial question. Which stage are you currently in? Because once you identify your position, you can map the exact steps needed to reach the next explosion point. The difference between financial struggle and financial freedom often comes down to recognizing these hidden triggers and positioning yourself to benefit from them. Remember, two people can start with identical circumstances and end up in completely different financial universes. The difference isn't luck, intelligence, or even income. It's understanding these three wealth explosion points and having the patience and strategy to reach them. Which stage will you commit to reaching next?